God bless you. Guys, I would not have made this again. I really would not have made this again if it hadn't have been for one thing. I've got many old friends. They're mutual friends of myself and Bill. I've got many old friends that were caught up in the middle of a dispute between Bill and myself, and that's so unfortunate. Most of the friends that were involved here didn't know me as long as they've known Bill, and I understand that. I've known Bill for over 10 years, but most of the people that he hangs with I haven't known for more than maybe 2 years. So, yeah, I understand, and I don't hold anything against anybody that has uh, uh, dropped their subscription or whatever you call it, subbed me. Everybody that close when this broke out between Bill and I, heck, I lost over 80 subs that day. But people just left. They chose sides. They didn't even know what was going on, and that's okay. It happens. I don't cry about it. Never did. A lot of these people have come back, though. And I stand now at more subscribers than I had when all of this happened with Bill. And that's okay. I'm not in this for the subs. I'm in this for the truth. But at any rate, Bill hasn't let this go. Bruce hasn't let this go. And they just keep on and on and on, which is okay. They're entitled to that. But that still puts our friends, mutual friends, in the middle. And that's unfortunate still. If I had my way, Bill and I would say, it's all done. It's forgiven. It's over. And we'd move on. But evidently, Bill isn't willing or ready to do that. That's okay. But I've had several of our mutual friends come to me, and they said they're saying plainly, I don't even know what happened. And that's okay. I'm going to show you what happened here. Because what I did, I don't regret. And I've put a little thing in the chat here, and I'm pinning it to the top. You can also find this link in the description. This is the link to the video where all of this happened. Now, what happened, guys, was well, God bless you. God bless you, Ben. I don't blame you. I don't want to be involved in it either. But I am. By force. Which is okay. It just means I have to deal with it, Ben. So, anyway, these people have been contacting me, and they said, I don't know what all happened. But, I think that you should probably leave things between Bill and God. And I do. I think there's a huge misunderstanding about what's going on here. And I'm still under attack by Bill and all of his friends that haven't come back, that are just judging when they don't even know what happened, or they're judging unrighteously, in my opinion. But one thing I've never done, I've never asked anybody to decide between Bill or myself. I've never pressured anybody to do so. And the worst that I've done is ask people to pray for Bill. Aside from telling him that he needs to learn how to forgive. So without further ado, I do want to show you some things here. I'm going to pull up the screenshots with the timestamps of that video so you can see why I said, Bill, you have to learn how to forgive. So bear with me just a moment. First of all, okay, it looks, wow, this is really weird. Okay, I'm going to have to pull it up another way, it looks like. So bear with me just a second here. That's no problem. Okay, so we're about to see the screenshots from this video. Now, the first one that I want to show you came up at just before everything hit the fan. Look at this. If you can see this, you're going to see right up here that several minutes into this, Bill's talking about beer time. Now, I'm not pointing fingers. I have an occasional beer. I haven't had one in many, many months, but I do have an occasional beer. But I've noticed that when this first began, we were fine. Bill and I were close friends up until this time. And then along around 3:30, this was over a 5-hour stream. After 3.5 hours, Bill started getting aggravated because the things that convinced him wouldn't convince me that OSAS is true. And I laid out what I needed. Nobody was bringing me what I needed to convert to OSAS if OSAS was true. So at any rate, beer time for him, beer wins. But look at this in blue. The news unit and Smokey mocked my daughter's death. For that I have no forgiveness. That's a pretty bold statement. God may, but not I. And then he brought up Ryan right after that. And he said that we would talk to him, a pedo, but not to Bill, a devil, which was crazy because I was talking to Bill. And he says us grace believers are so bad that nobody ever said anything like that in here. Nobody. Now, I want you to understand something. This wasn't the first time I saw Bill say that he would never forgive the people that mocked his daughter's death. Now, granted, that's a horrible thing. I sided with Bill over this, and heck, I wept with Bill over all of this. But you see, I've heard Bill have one beer too many on more than one occasion. On at least 2 occasions before this. On his own live streams, and then once again in private, he told me he'd never forgive these people. Now, when he told me this privately, I tried to speak to him then. I said, brother, you're going to have to learn how to forgive these people. Because this stuff was hurting him, man. This strife, this thing is killing him. He carries it with him and he won't let it go. But here you see it with your own eyes that he will not forgive them. Now, Jesus is very clear. If you believe the Bible literally, and I believe it literally, he said, forgive and you'll be forgiven. But if you do not forgive, you will not be forgiven. There's no caveat to that. Now, I believe it. Bill, however, believes that once he's been saved, he's always going to be saved. He assumes he's been saved, so he assumes that scripture doesn't apply to him, but I fear it does. Because I see how it's destroying him. But let's go on. I'm going to do. Let me get the next one. I'm sorry, guys. Here's another one. And this is from the same thing. I haven't said anything to Bill yet by this point. But look what he says here. Now he's talking about everybody that believes like me. That God expects obedience out of us. God expects us to do the things that he says. He said, why do you call me Lord and you don't do the things I say? Now, people like me, he calls lordship. Believers of lordship, that Jesus is Lord. Yes, I believe that. And we should treat him as though he's Lord of our lives with our obedience. I believe that. But here's what he says. The only examples of lordship I have seen are hateful, callous, and inhumane, monsters all. Lord's salvation, I speak of, is the premise we have to make Jesus Lord as a prerequisite unto salvation. Bill's talking about most of my friends here, most of my family, people that I love. Just because you're once saved, always saved, doesn't mean that you're supposed to look down on the people that disagree with you and call them hateful and callous and inhumane. The people that I know, like Janet, for instance, she's not hateful, callous, and inhumane. Jamie's not. I'm not. As a matter of fact, I've been very forgiving through this whole thing with you, Bruce, and everybody that left. I've been very forgiving, and I'm not about to change that. I don't regret that. But there you go. What? See, he's pushing. Something has to be said at this point, and yet I'm still quiet. I still haven't said a word. That was at 3:35. This is 3:38. Look at this. Pedo mockers of bereavements is good. Grace believers bad. When will you learn this? When you learn this, you learn the way of the lordship. In other words, everybody that believes like me believes that it's good for pedo mockers, for pedos and mockers to mock bereavements. And it's okay to call everybody that believes in OSAS bad. Lordship 101, pedo good, grace bad. Then he says, not from you, Eric, but other lordshippers. And then he goes on to say, a few. How about nigh all lordshippers? In other words, almost everybody I know is lordship 101, pedo good, grace bad. He's talking about most of his brothers and sisters that are sitting in the chat around him at this point. And dangerously close to throwing me in with it. Then he says, I'm sick of lordshippers. I have seen hatred come from John MacArthur, Paul Washer, John Piper, Kevin, Smokey, etc., etc. And, it's sad if he's seen all that, but he can't blame everybody that believes like me. He and I were friends for over 10 years and never had a cross word. Never. That was at 3:38. Now this is at 3:55. Again, Bill says, all I ever see is free grace is evil and pedo is good. The oxymoron is that I won't suffer a pedo and yet a large shit will. Do the math. Now he's gone from anger to reviling us all, going from categorizing us as lordshippers, as if that's a bad thing, to make Jesus Lord of our life, and to act as though he really is Lord by trying to be obedient to his commandments. Now he's calling us a large shit. Not just me, my friends, but all of my friends that are in here too, that doesn't believe once saved, always saved. Now every single one of them is a large shit. Then he brings forth an accusation about Ryan that I had not heard of by that time, talking about Ryan being a pedophile. Maybe he is. But I didn't know it at the time. And I let Bruce talk to him because Bruce asked if he could confront him. I said, yes, you can. My goodness. That's not embracing a pedophile. But at this point, I believe it's the beer talking, and it's definitely unforgiveness talking and strife and hatred that is killing his heart. Now, as a friend, I care. As a brother in Christ, I care. And as somebody that does not believe once saved, always saved, I believe Bill's soul is in danger, my friend. Jesus said, if you do not forgive, you will not be forgiven. I'm sorry, I don't care how anybody else takes that. I take it literally. And if Bill is my friend, I'm going to do everything I can do to try to help my friend escape this bondage, because that's what Jesus did. Jesus died to set the captive free, my friends. And now look at this. You saw the first one I began with, where he said that he's not going to forgive any of these people. He said, I will not forgive him. Maybe God will, but I won't. That was my initial reason. But now look at this. He's casting curses on everybody that believes like I do. This is messed up, he says. I am going as my heart is angered, and I will not ever suffer any of you anymore. And we hadn't done a thing. Not a thing. I hadn't said a word to him by this point. Goodbye, never speak to me again. Anathema Maranatha. Anathema Maranatha is pronouncing us anathema. Pronouncing us heretics, pronouncing us godless, and he'll never speak to us again. And this is when I spoke up. This is when I said, brother, Bill, brother, you got to get a hold of yourself. This stuff is killing you. I told him Jesus said we have to forgive or we will not be forgiven. I don't know if this was the problem, that it was beer time and you reached one too many. But it looks to me, Bill, like this is your heart. This is what you have in your heart. And that breaks my heart for you because I sincerely love you. I sincerely care that you make it to heaven. And I see that you're in bondage to strife and hatred and hurt. It's been years and you're still carrying it around, Bill. I understand how bad it hurt. Let me tell you something. I have dealt with hurts in all of my life. So I know what the bitterness does, man. The bitterness almost killed me too. Until somebody was brother enough to tell me, Eric, I don't even recognize you anymore. This hatred is killing you. I don't want this hatred to kill you, Bill. Hello, JG. Good to see you. Hello, Big Perm. God bless you. Yeah, Big Perm. You see, I didn't. I knew Ryan from one thing. I didn't know anything about Ryan. The one thing I knew about Ryan was that he occasionally came on a channel that I would go visit. And I dropped in one time and I said hello to everybody involved in that live stream. And Ryan told me, frankly, you hang around with Bill Cuthbert, don't speak to me. And so I never did again. And I continued hanging with Bill Cuthbert, my friend, my brother in Christ. I didn't know a thing about it. The only time that I knew anything about what Ryan was into was when Bill was talking about all of this. Pedo good. Osas bad. That's the first I ever heard of anything like that about Ryan. The second thing that I heard about it was when their friend, John, started saying, and I believe it was the same live stream, threatening Ryan, saying, I will release the Kraken on you. I had no idea what he was talking about. I said, what do you mean? And he says, I'll send it to you. And he sent me a video. And he was actually bragging about blackmailing people. What he sent me was a videotape of him and Ryan talking. And in this videotape, now bear in mind, I didn't know any of this until after the fact. This was well after all of this happened. Well, I won't even go into it. Needless to say, just suffice it to say, that these guys have been blackmailing each other for years and calling themselves Christians. Something's wrong with this picture. I'm sorry. Whether you believe once saved, always saved or not, this is ridiculous. And surely once saved, always saved people. Yes, I mean Dave. Dave, that's right, Big Perm. Dave. And, you know, I stood ready to forgive all of this. And I still do. But when Dave sent me this email with this video, a blackmail video, I was appalled, guys. I just couldn't believe I was watching what I was watching. And so I don't feel a bit bad for telling Bill that he had to forgive. And I don't feel a bit bad for answering Bruce where he says, "What about fears?" And I says, "Perfect love casts out all fear. If we live in fear, we haven't been made perfect in love." So there you go. That's why all of this started. I sat through that entire stream, guys. And look, I put the timestamps with the link in the description. So if anybody thinks that I doctored any of this, you can go to those timestamps because that's a record of what actually happened on that video. And you'll see that everything I said is true. You'll see I even left out a bunch that I could have gone on. But I don't want to make this unbearably long or unbearably complicated. I just wanted you guys to know what actually happened and why this actually happened. I'm no friend of Smokey or any of those people. I was appalled by what they did to Bill. I was offended for my brother. I stood against them, and I still do. It was a horrible thing. But it's even more horrible to stand by and watch my brother fall. And that's what I believe I'm watching. And even now, see, Bill used to love my testimony. I was a guest with him many times on his streams, and he on mine. And he used to tell me what a powerful testimony I have, and now he mocks it. He mocks it because I told him he has to learn how to forgive. I understand that probably embarrassed him. But I'm sorry. In my opinion, he embarrassed himself. He should have exercised a little bit of self-control on his brother's live stream and not gotten so angry and upset over this. If we're controlled this deeply by strife and anger, hatred, whatever you want to call it, to where we're calling our Christian brothers and sisters around us lard shitters, embracers of pedophiles, and haters of OSAS, my gosh, something's wrong with you, my friend. That's a personal problem you really need to take to God. And so, my friends, I'm sorry. Maybe I don't do everything perfectly. I won't claim I do. And there might be some people that think I was wrong. I'm sorry. I don't. I think I was obedient to the Lord. He wouldn't hear me privately. He just ran off in a huff. Wouldn't even discuss it. And then to go off like this publicly on my stream over and over and over. I bore with this for a long time, over a half an hour, before I said a word. And when I did, it was deserved. It was needed. Bill needed it. I didn't need to say it for me. I needed to say it for my brother. So God bless you all and have a wonderful evening, a wonderful day. God willing, I'm going to be back on here this evening at about 7 o'clock. So I love you all. Have a wonderful day.